on this.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming tonight to this meeting of the Queeny-Lafayette and Missouri River Township Democrats. We really appreciate you coming to join us tonight. And I see some folks who don't always make it to our meetings, so thank you so much for making an effort to come out and meet with us. Tonight, we have as our main speaker State Representative Deb Lavender, who is my state representative in the 98th district. And we're so excited to have Deb Lavender here tonight. She is going to give us an update on what's happening in the Missouri State Legislature, which is something we all need to pay close attention to all of the time. So, and then after that, we're going to have some of our committee people give some reports on what's been going on with the St. Louis County Democratic Central Committee and also the CD2 Committee. So, but first up, we have State Representative Deb Lavender.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. I'm pretty sure if I look here, it looks like I'm looking at these people. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's a little. You want to do this to see you on the wall, but I know looking this way, I see you. So I am happy to give you an update. What I want to tell you, though, is there's so many things that happen in that building ongoingly that I have no idea what's happening to give you an update, if that kind of makes sense. The very, very first day I was sworn in years ago now, I sat in the House and we had our opening ceremonies and speeches and blah, 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 and it was very exciting for me. The next day in the newspaper, I read how, if you remember, many of you will, the pastors, priests, ministers had protested in the gallery of the Senate and were arrested. And you would want to say, well, Deb, you were in that building. How come you didn't know that? And I didn't know it until I read it in the paper the next day. Because there are so many things that go on. I realized today, I don't think I saw Paula Brown this week. Paula represents an area right near us. We are on the floor once a day, and right now we're not on the floor. We get there, we do the perfunctory pledge, prayer, vote on the journal, because there's no bills to come to the floor for debate. You all know about the only debate we've had on the floor so far this year, and it had to do with sweaters. But that's the only debate. So our floor time is really limited, and that's really when I even see a lot of my caucus members. We have different offices, and Paula's office isn't even very far from mine. But our comings and goings, you would almost think we would at least cross in the hall, walking to the steps or the elevator or to the bathroom, and it just, you really can not see people at all week long. You get to know, so I have an office right next to Gretchen Banker, that's then on the other side of Donna, and kind of sort of it's through mine, but go over a little bit more, kind of down a hallway, and not a hallway, I should say, a smaller is Peter's office. But other than seeing him walk by my office, I don't know when he's there, I can't hear him in his office, I don't know what he's doing. So it's not even the same as mine being next to Gretchen. So even as much as we're in the same complex, I can't really tell you my office is next to this. With that, I think a way that you all can follow what's happening in the House and the Senate too is you pull up Missouri House of Representatives website. And it's really quite user-friendly. Some of it's user-friendly, some of it's clunky. But at the top of the menu bar, you can see hearings. And if you click on the button that tells you hearings, it tells you all of the hearings for the day. And that's where everything goes in. I hone in, I'm on 3 budget committees. I'm on budget itself, which is a big budget. I think there are 35 or 40 members on that. We have, and I don't even know, there's 6 or 7 appropriation committees where we take all the budgets and we break them down into groupings, so you're not the whole thing. I'm on health, mental health, and social services is one grouping. The other grouping I'm on, and this morning we did Department of Revenue, the new guard division that we have. It has corrections and MoDOT in it, and public safety. So we haven't done those 3 yet, but that's in the second grouping that I'm in. There's another grouping that has ag and conservation, there's another grouping that has education and higher education, and I think, oh, and then there's another grouping that has office of administration. So I don't even know when the other groupings are meeting, per se. I'd love to be able to go, but you get so busy on your path, it's hard to see around the parades. Tuesday night was a hearing that you may have heard or seen some about, going after our trans kids again, and now we've decided we don't like drag queens either. The nicest part about Republicans not liking the drag queens, we have drag queens in the house, because they come. And, you know, I love it, I say thank you for coming, some of them testified. Amazingly and not really, Jay Ashcroft testified against the drag queens. Because, you know, he's running for governor. It's disappointing. It is not the place of the Secretary of State to testify against drag queens. One of the drag queens apparently in the hall went up to him afterwards and said, "Have you ever been to a drag show? No. Would you like to go to a drag show? No. But you're against us having shows?" Yes. And so there's just, and that's mostly, I think what I heard was most disappointing about that evening was several of the sponsors of the bill left before people testified against the bill. And the same as last year when this happened, sir, do you know the Amateur Association of Sports has parameters about this? Have you read those? No. Have you read this other policies and procedures that apply to what you're doing? No. Has anybody come to you to complain about their girl it's not fair? No. Well, then what the heck are you doing this for? It does seem to be the latest craze of Republicans pushing at us. There are CRT bills that I know will come through as well. And actually, so I think it was Andy Koenig in the Senate on Tuesday morning. What I understand, very similar drag queens, maybe transports, that type of thing, became so contentious, the chair of the committee stopped taking the closing testimony. And these are people that have now driven 1, 2, 3 hours to get there. I'm a Missourian, I should be able to testify. Apparently they had somebody from out of state testify for the bill for like 23 minutes. And then they cut Missourians off and saying, "We don't have time for you." People, again, who have driven, what I understand is it got pretty loud, and people saying, "I drove to get here, what do you mean I don't have a chance to speak to you?" And so that's happened. I think it was an Andrew Koenig bill they were hearing. I don't think he was the chair that cut off people being able to testify. So that is one of the troubles. I know I've seen it more in the Senate than in the House. Apparently the House committee, whoever was the chair, was very civil, allowed everyone to go. I do know that the hearing, and I've heard different, the hearing went till 1:30, I heard it went to 2, I heard it went to 2:30. I promise you I was asleep at that moment. I had started in the Department of Social Services at 8 o'clock that morning. I went out and I can tell you a little bit about the tax reform bill. I had a tax reform committee hearing at noon that I had to leave Social Services for, to go to a committee for an hour, to go back into Social Services, and we got out at 6:30. So that was one day with their books. We go through their books, their pages, they tell us how much they want, what it's for. So that was my day on Tuesday, and I didn't really, the hearing for trans and drag queens was next to mine. They have large monitors now out in the hall, so there's a tremendous way for people just standing up the hallway to see what's going on. So I could hear the noise of them in the hallway, which is a little unusual, and I used to hear that much noise out in the hallway. So I was well aware it was going on. Aaron Crosley's a new rep from Kansas City, got the prize for the day. For the longest day, he was in my budget committee, hearing starting at 8, and he left my hearing at 4:30 to be on Jen Law's, and didn't get out till 2 or 2:30. So we think he had the longest day in being in unusually both of those committees, and probably was the only person that had that length of a day inside a committee. And he's a brand new, younger man from Kansas City. He's the social worker, very bright. He's doing terrific, and he's been there for 3 years. So I know those things are going on. I did send John a link, the communication person for the House minority sent out links, clips from the committee about trans and queens. And so there are links that you can pull up those links and kind of watch little snippets of what happened in the committee hearing. So, and you have a way to send that to people on email, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that might be a way that you can see some specific links that were pulled out of that. I'm gonna be working on my newsletter this weekend. I'll probably put 2 of those clips in there. There's always a way, so everything now in the House is recorded. You can go back and see what's happening in a committee. I was on Channel 13 in Columbia, I think, on Tuesday night and Wednesday, and still never saw it, and can't see it on their social media, so we're gonna try to see if we can get that clip. The committee I had at noon was tax reform, because, oh my God, we pay taxes on Social Security. And you might say, well, that's not right, we shouldn't do that. We're apparently one of 11 or 12 states that do that. So you start scratching your head and say, well, how come we do that? Well, as you read the bill and you do a little bit of investigation, if you are single, you do not pay tax on Social Security or a pension up to $85,000. So today, currently, a single person will not pay tax on Social Security. Because if you wait till 70 and you max out your benefits, you get, I think it's $54,000 a year. Well, the cap is $85,000, so you will not pay tax on your Social Security. So, okay, so who pays this tax? The only scenario I can come up with, and there's a little shade of, there's probably a little bit below what I'm telling you. Married couple, you both have to wait till you're 70 to retire and take your Social Security benefits. You both have to max out. So that's kind of unusual, right? But then you both would make, I think it's $54,000 a year. That would put you at $109,000. The cap for a married couple is $100,000. I think that's how they say we tax Social Security benefits. And I'm not kidding you, the Republicans who pitched this bill talked about the vulnerable, the low income amongst us, and we're taxing them on their Social Security. It's almost laughable. You know, we want people to retire to Missouri, and they're not going to retire to Missouri if we tax Social Security benefits. And people are going to be looking. And I'm not kidding, one of the sponsors made a reference that he knew a guy who died a year after he retired, and he's quite sure if he didn't have to pay tax on his Social Security, he'd still be alive today. And you're sitting there and you're just listening to this, and if you look at them, they are serious about what they're saying. And it's just the fiscal note, so every bill that's gonna cost money, there's a fiscal note that's created. The fiscal note on this bill would be $317 million. And so silver-haired legislators, I don't know if anybody in here belongs to that organization, actually called me before this year and said, oh, we're in favor of this bill because we don't want to tax Social Security. And I sent her a note back and I said, okay, blah, 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 blah. And by the way, it's going to cost the state $317 million. And she very nicely sent me an email back that said, oh, we might be able to use that $317 million in a different way. I said, yes. I'm going to ask for an amendment that leaves the cap for single at $85,000, but puts a CPI on it. That hasn't changed for, I think they last changed this in 2007. I think I'm going to ask for the cap on married people to be about $150,000. I don't think of a marriage penalty as being twice that of a single. I own a home, the two of you own a home. It's not that maybe you have a nicer home, but it's still one house. I buy food, you buy more food, but I don't pay twice what I buy. Same with utilities, so I'm not sure we need to have a twice the amount. I think $150,000 is still arbitrary. I think that does allow you public pension, a private pension, so you can add, right? So I'm pretty sure both my public and private pension, if I have those, add up to that $85,000 that I don't have to pay tax on. Married couple, I think 150,000 is a reasonable amount, but again, with a CPI on it, so it grows with inflation. So I'm gonna try to push on that. I don't have any idea if they'll accept that as a compromise. I think we shot a pretty good hole in their argument that, oh my God, we make people pay sales tax on Social Security. I think we brought up, and there was a little bit of take on the Republican side, that it's not worth $317 million. And we talked about AAA and food, tax on food, or there's a Republican that wants to take sales tax off of food. You know, we have a high and low tax at the grocery store. We tax adult, hygiene products at a luxury tax level. So even if we took the luxury tax and brought it down to the lower tax, Democrats, more so, I think some Republicans have gotten on board, have tried to take taxes off of feminine products for the last multiple years. This year, there are bills that instead of taking it off, because I think that has a price tag of a lot, and I wanted to 80 million, I think it's even maybe more in this 300 million category if we remove the tax on it. But if we just even took it down, and the governor took tax on food progressively, I think they're at 6, she's gonna go at 4, and then 2, and then nothing, progressively stair step. If we do something like that, that's where we can help the citizens of our state, not targeting individuals that make more than $100,000, which you all got your tax break this year, right? We went from 5.4 to 4.95. And so the expectation is that it will cost us $95 million this year over the life. So you all know this, you've got a reduction. When Missouri makes 200 million more, it will trigger another tax cut. It's already written into this bill. So the tax will go from 4.9 to 4.8 to 7 to 6.35. So there are 4 triggers still in place. We go up $200 million, we trigger a 10th, and again, I think a 1/10 of 1% is $95 million. What that does, it at least is better than cutting it all at once. I think totally it's about a $2 billion loss of revenue to our state. But because it takes it over time, you don't recognize how much we've cut out of revenue. It's not like Kansas that cut it all at one time. But it boxes us into the same amount of revenue for about a decade. A little bit of growth, but it still boxes us into that same type of revenue. Today, in the Department of Revenue, we set aside money from general revenue. That's the money that is really cash in your pocket. There's a lot of sources of money. General revenue is cash in your pocket, and as a budget person, you can spend that when you want to. There's hoops and jumps and things, but it's money that cash in your pocket, you take it out, put it where you want it to be. Department of Revenue has reserved $1.6 billion of our revenue for refunds. Last year, we have accurate data. They did not spend $347 million. That's a lot. But so you can't estimate your refunds better than this. It's taking $340 million out of spendable money and putting it aside in reserves for tax refunds. Of course we want enough to cover. But it's 20% more than they've ever spent. 20% doesn't sound like a lot until you talk about $350 million. So I spent a lot of time in the Appropriations Department this afternoon, learning a little bit more about that. And again, I, as a Democrat, and inside of our budget in Missouri, we have a balanced budget. If I want to spend more money on foster kids, I've got to find it somewhere else in the budget. So I first have to find the money. I call it, where can I steal money from, and where can I put it? So I'm saying a pot of $350 million, saying that seems like easy picking, and put it into these other locations. There's always requests for money for mental health, social services. The Department of Health and Senior Services came to me today. They have a program that they want to put more money into community health centers, public health facilities, and how and what. Their new director, Paula Nicholson, just seems to be a buzz with good ideas, new ideas. Met with the director of the Department of Mental Health, I think it was yesterday morning. She's really very creative. We don't have near enough money for the mental health aspects. People with developmental disabilities, we have people sitting in jail. We have people sitting in hospitals because we don't have residence homes for them to go to. We don't have the homes for them to go to. We don't have staff if we did have the homes for them to go to. So she's not trying to be incredibly creative on moving beds and facilities and staff. And if I have these people here and these people here and they're similar, can I put them all here and can we staff them and then I can do something else over here? So you just see her trying to juggle how she can best take care of as many as she can. And an interesting thing, she's not necessarily going to put a new home in where the need is versus where she can get the workforce to staff her homes. So she's telling people, what's your workforce like in your area? If I move in and I need to hire 200 people, do you have them for me to hire? And so just really thoughtfulness right now on not just how to spend the dollars, but where and how can she juggle the maximum results. Our Department of Corrections, Dan Priesson, has been with Missouri for 7 years. Populations in jails have gone down. I don't think that's because of her. She's maximizing. I think we've closed one prison. I think she's closing some wings. They're working internally with their people, trying to offer better salaries, better benefits. They're going to put in a mental health component for their own workers to take care of their own workers. They don't have human resources on site. In a lot of their facilities, they want human resources. So now an employee can go in and talk to somebody instead of being 200 miles away from someone in a human resource department that manages what they're doing. So we have a lot of good people working. Director Missy, Daryl Missy used to be a judge. He's now head of the children's division. That's where we have our foster kids. That's where we have so many of our social workers trying to figure out that pot. We have, I don't know that we're the top state, we have more foster kids in our state than most of the other states in the country. Not a big surprise. We lose kids. If you've heard that story, we have a gentleman, we have a department staff, I'm sorry, forget, STAT, there's a team of people in Missouri, I think there's 16, mostly retired police officers. When there's a child reported missing in foster care, they go look for them. They said it's harder to find kids because they don't have the same electronic footprints that adults have. I think he came up short of 10 or 12 kids that we lost last year. But I think the ratio is pretty good. I know at one point in time we had close to, well, maybe a total of 800 or 900 kids that went missing from our foster care program at some point or time during this last year. I think that it's a challenging situation. Kids run away, they're not happy where they are. So I don't think it's necessarily indicative or little. Kids running away, I think, is probably normal, maybe at a high rate, really points that we don't have a good system in place. So that's a lot, and I probably have barely told you what's going on in the house. You may have heard better than I have that there was a committee about the IP process and making that harder. I think our ace in the hole or up your sleeve or wherever is the realtors. Sam Ledwire has been a lobbyist in Jeff City for decades, and realtors are pretty powerful people financially as well as a presence. They always have a presence. They testified against the IP, messing with the IP process. Realtors have had 2 successful IP processes in the last, I think, 8 years. You all remember we had an amendment, I think it was constitutional, that we cannot put sales tax on anything that it's not already on. Remember that one? It wasn't that long ago realtors didn't want anybody putting sales tax on the sale of a home. But I'm pretty sure it was language, you cannot put sales tax on anything that doesn't already have it. Services, your physicians, your dentists, your beauticians, your massage therapists, none of those have sales tax on. So that's now included under this umbrella. They didn't have it before, they can't have it now. But it was the realtors that got that passed. And there's another one that they got passed. They have $600,000 in one town and I think $5 million in another account. So we told them we're not interested in you all changing this process. So.
And Steve Butcher's big.
Yes,
deal.
that's one of them. That's one of them. CRT is one of them. I don't know what's going to happen with these trans bills and drag queen bills. Caleb Rowden actually today said we're not going after the queens. We have more important things to do. Oh, did you think of that 10 days ago when you dumped on Columbia schools because they had a drag queen presentation? That was like, nothing, like zero sexual implications at all. And it's a high school and with diversity, and apparently this would have been a normal part. So not only did Caleb jump on them, so the governor pushed right behind Caleb until I started having people say, gee, thanks for weighing in on drag queens. I haven't heard you comment about school shootings yet. So there's fortunately people that have a very quick ability to say, why are you saying this and not this? And I really saw comments about that go down pretty substantially. So, are you ready for me to ask questions?
Sure. I just want to add one thing real quick. So the IP process that Representative Lavender is referring to is the initiative petition process where citizens can get together and create a petition to get an initiative on the ballot, for anybody who's not familiar with that. And the Republicans are trying to.
Were you all able to hear that on Zoom, the initiative petition process? I'm sorry, I talked about it as if you knew what I was talking about. It is our way as citizens to put something on the ballot. And the challenge is, yes, we have it, it's real good. It's not simple. It is a $2 or $3 million process to find somebody to get your signatures, to get them collected, to verify your signatures, to pack them up, to get them to the Secretary of State's office, for them to go through and reauthorize your signatures. It's not a simple, and then the millions of dollars that you're going to want to advertise that you should pass this. So as much as the Republicans make it sound, this is too simple to do, it's not simple to do. And, oh, it's out-of-state people. Yes, because it's a $3 to $5 million process, and there are people who are good at this across the nation and other states that have this as well that will come help get that done. Last year, ranked choice voting turned in signatures, and the Secretary of State told me they didn't have enough. So that did not get on the ballot, different than recreational marijuana, who used, I think, the same company, and did get enough signatures. So there was a performance. So now they've spent, I'll just say $1 million, and they failed to get enough signatures. It's not a simple process. So, yes.
I just want to say that I very loosely belong to a group called Show Me Integrity, and it's a Republican and Democrat group, and they are really focused on the IP process. They're very opposed to destroying it. So I called all the committee members hearing those bills yesterday, and I said I loosely belong to this group. I mostly belong on Slack. And we're Republicans and Democrats, and we're all opposed to this. And that really, I don't know, the LAs really seem to listen.
Mary is saying that Show Me Integrity is against this as well, and Mary had the chance to call legislators that were involved in the committee or the bills themselves. I think Show Me Integrity is going for not ranked choice voting. What does the city have? City of St. Louis?
Approval voting?
Approval voting.
Approval voting.
So there's approval voting and there's ranked choice voting. I think approval voting is not quite as crisp or sharp as ranked choice voting. So I think there's going to be a kerfuffle for a while if we have 2 initiative petitions. Somebody assured me yesterday that ranked choice will win out, but he's also representing ranked choice voting, so I've only had that from one side. But, and I think Show Me Integrity is doing approval voting.
They're doing something with voting, I didn't pay attention.
Yeah, I think, now you'll know to go back and listen to it. It's different. And then I said to this guy, I said, oh, but Alaska took a month before, so that's your strike against you for ranked choice voting. He says, Alaska's always waited a month because of their distance and mailing in ballots. And so apparently, those who pay better attention than I do, Alaska never had results of their elections for a month. And it has nothing to do with ranked choice voting. But he also agreed that that was a hurdle, that I'm not the only one that put those two pieces of information together. So they'll have to overcome it. So, yeah. Oh, anybody have a question? Yeah.
I have one more question. When you talked about Social Security being taxed, and you proposed like $158,000, you're talking about overall income, is that right?
Yes, yes, and inside that, so Social Security, we say we put that at the bottom, whatever you get on Social Security, put a public pension. So I'm gonna get a public pension for having worked for the government. If you have private, and I'm gonna use a pension, word pension, but it might be a pension from a company, it might be your 401k, it might be monies that you've saved and you're pulling down. I believe all of that qualifies up to that cap. You don't pay income tax on it.
So you won't pay income tax on Social Security if you earn under that.
Right. And we need to move that cap to $10,000. So again, I think incredibly rare example of a married couple, both waiting till 70 to retire and both being able to take maximum benefits, are the only people I can think fit in their category that might have to pay Social Security tax. All right, so as much as I told you of what's going on, and I could probably tell you a little bit more, I'm not sure I know 20% of what happened in the building district. So there are other committees going on, they're hearing other bills. The Senate, I heard today coming home on the news that the Senate committees have passed bills that they will start debating bills on their floor next week. I don't think the House has bills yet for us to debate on the floor yet. So the bill I heard was this past Tuesday. This Tuesday we'll vote on it, most likely. And then I think in the House it still has to go to a Rules Committee. And once it's referred to a Rules Committee, you still have to give 24 hours notice. So if it comes out of us on Tuesday, even if it's referred to a Rules Committee on Wednesday, they have to wait 24 hours to notice. So then it's like the following Monday to be in Rules Committee, and then I think it still waits on the calendar 2 days before we debate it on the floor. So there's a pipeline you've got to fill. I don't know if there are other committees that have already voted on bills they've heard in committee yet. I don't think so, just because of when they were able to even get the bills. And so I think the House is still potentially a week away from debating bills on the floor. Do you all know how to get on the website and look at committee hearings if you want to?
I shared the link over chat. We can send that out when we send out the link for the videos that you shared.
I think it's a little clunky to follow a bill, but you have access to all of the bills. Have they been referred to committees? I think if you just go to the House website and you look at hearings, and every hearing will pop up, there's a little plus sign in a box. You click on that, it tells you what bills are having a hearing. If you click on the number, it takes you to the bill that you can read the bill. You can then see who's on the committee. I think on the right-hand side, it tells you what bills have been referred to that committee. So there is a way to follow what's going on. There's also on the front page of the House website, maybe a third down on the left, is audio-visual of the House. So when we're on the House, all of our cameras are on, and I think the camera will get you this close to me. So they used to be up at the top front of the chamber, and you saw the whole chamber, and you could barely see somebody was talking because they were standing. They're now high-tech cameras that zoom right in. we've been advised if you're sitting at your desk, I don't wanna, if somebody's sitting at a desk right behind me, if you're at your desk, you better know you're gonna be on camera if I'm the one talking. So we attempt to be aware of, the cameras, you don't wanna be slouching. I think most of us are pretty decent with each other. It's not hard to fall asleep on the house floor, depending on the day and the time of day, but most of us try to keep it, yeah. It's not done often by any means, but you can really understand that it really doesn't have to be a hard thing to do. Some members sit at their own desk, they don't have a companion desk. So, and there's a back lounge if you're tired, you can go sit on the sofa chairs and get up. But I think most of us are pretty generous with each other to make sure that that's not happening. But, you know, all you need is somebody to have a picture of somebody sleeping on the floor, and we're all gonna be upset about it. That's not what you sent us there for. Doesn't matter how long Aaron's day was. You don't want him sleeping in the committee hearing, right? So, any other questions?
I've got one from chat from Donna.
Yeah.
Are there any additional anti-LGBTQ initiatives that are going to be coming forward, and how do we oppose these bills?
Donna, there probably is. I heard 8 of them in committee the other night. I don't doubt there are more of them. I've also kind of heard this is all the speaker's going to refer, so it sounds as like they're getting them done. I think the speaker is appeasing his members. I'm not sure how far they'll go. You get to call everybody. You can call the speaker's office and tell them to cut it out. You can call the majority floor leader and ask him why he's bringing them to the floor. You can call the sponsor, you can call the chair of the committee, you can call the members of the committee. Democrats are against these things. We don't need you to call us. Of course you can. And you know, boy, we want you to hear from us too. Of course you can call us. But I think calling Republicans that are on the committee, the chair, members on the committee and the chair might say, if you're not in my district, I don't care. They have a little bit of wiggle room to say that. The majority floor leader should never tell you that. He brings the things to the floor. The Speaker of the House is the one who's referred them to begin with. They call his office and tell him that as well. So that's how we advocate, Donna. I would potentially make sure you're calling if you have any. I think a lot of you in here have the entertaining, get your senator, right? Call him, read them. And he was one, I don't know what bill he sponsored. I don't know if it was a trans bill, a sports bill. I don't think it was a clean bill. But
It's a CRT bill.
CRT bill, just, you know, call him and tell. No, I don't think it helps, but it doesn't hurt us to let him know we're watching, we're paying attention, and we don't like what he's doing. Sorry, Donna, I don't have a good answer on how we go forward. Yes.
So how do you go to work every day knowing
So she wants to know how
all
I
this
go to
is
work every day.
happening?
Well,
Like,
there's,
how do you keep the energy and, I mean, how do you get it out? Like,
what are you gonna do if I'm not there?
I know, that's why
Yeah.
I'm there.
And that's why I'm there.
It's
I have never, I might, when I first started running, they may not have had a supermajority. I've never, I think the first, I think, maybe not, I think since I was elected, they've had a supermajority. So I have never thought I was gonna be in the majority. I have never thought I would have anything passed. I've never thought I'm gonna have a bill referred to a committee. Occasionally I have, not very often. We're gonna have a bill, and I've already talked to the speaker. He says, oh, I hate naming bills. No, that's what I got. We're gonna have an eclipse next year. And I'd like us to have a Missouri Eclipse Day. I think it's a decent advertising campaign that Missouri's got an Eclipse Day. Come to Missouri, stay at our hotels where the eclipse is gonna be. That's what we can hope for. But if I'm not there, and if I'm not saying this, when you watch these clips that John's gonna send out, you think you're gonna be really proud of the Democrats in what they did, what they said, how they stood up. I do have, I think, a wonderful analogy. I get up every morning, I shower, I get dressed, I go to work, and we play in a tug of war. And this year, there's 52 of us on our side and 111 on their side. And every day they win, and we get dragged through the mud, and we go home bloodied and beat up, and we get to do it all over again tomorrow. It's all we have. And if we don't do that, then who's standing up for our point of view? And so I'm hopeful with people like Jess Piper, who's, I think, in my experience, has a tremendous social media visibility. She's talking about education. She's talking about how we're killing public education and how the vouchers don't help my kids. You just want my kids to work for your kids. She's got great social media presence. An awful lot of this state, counties, voted more Democrat this last year than they have in a while. Minimally, you know, but if we get 1 or 2 percentage points per election, from 40 to 42 is not a big deal. From 42 to 43 is not a big deal. But from 47 to 48 is. Maybe we can elect a statewide Democrat again as we raise that up. And that's what we fight for. Or Louisiana, was it Louisiana that's just in total disarray? No, Florida. No longer a swing state. It is red. And Democrats in Florida don't know what to do. Where we are. Farmers Ordinance, yeah.
I didn't know that the state income taxes dropped, so, but I feel like a fool when I say this. I don't mind paying taxes. I've never minded, you know. My wife is an immigrant and she would never let me cheat or anything else on a tax. But in the state of Missouri, I feel so frustrated. If I didn't feel like there were, you know, the Republicans seem to want to have a tax cut for every possible thing, and yet when they do in the mental institutions, and they do in this or that, and we have terrible roads, but oh, we won't cut taxes on tobacco, we won't cut taxes on, or add taxes on gas thing. Drives me crazy just to, and I feel so frustrated in the whole thing. As I say, don't mind paying taxes, or if they're going somewhere other than let's fight LGBT, let's fight, you know, abortion.
Right.
No, it just seems like they're anti-humanity for all.
Well, I think so. And what I've heard for years, and I've heard it both now, I think our speaker, Dean Popper, said it on his opening day. The governor said it on his State of the Address, I think last week, the week before. I want hard-working Missourians to have more money in their pockets. Okay, but this tax cut, $90 million this year, all of us might get $10 more in our pocket a month. So $10 in my pocket instead of 90 million in the state. I don't know how they think that's better for the state of Missouri. One of my favorite stories was we had a franchise tax. As a small business owner, I paid $45 every other year. Cost the state $100 million to cut the franchise tax. The hardest thing about that for me was remember which year I was in. Was I in the year I paid it or not? $45. So for me to have $45, Griffin and I got to go to dinner and maybe a movie one more time every 2 years, and instead the state lost $100 million. I can't spend $45 in the way the state can spend $100 million. And that's, I keep trying to say, invest in Missouri, invest in Missouri. How do you think we're going to get out of the bottom if we don't provide health care, education, transportation? This whole workforce development that Carson's been really pushing for his 4 years, great. You now have somebody who's living in a transportation island who's trained. How are you going to get them to their job? We don't. I think St. Louis is one of the few places that has buses, maybe Kansas City, St. Louis. Didn't St. Charles have a law you can't have public transportation? I think. So how are you going to get people to their jobs? And so they're just huge pieces of the puzzle that we're missing to put more of your hard-earned dollar into your pocket. I know. And that's,
Another thing, Deb, is every time I hit a pothole and a tire blows or my car goes out of alignment, that $10 a month is not going far to cover that.
yep. MoDOT has a 17, 18-page book. MoDOT will present their budget next week to us, I believe. They had a 17-page book that says exactly that, Donna, that for lack of $2 investment a month, it's costing you X amount of money. And I think they had, I read it 3 weeks ago, I think they had 3 different examples of if we paid a little bit more in this tax, a little bit more in this one, and a little bit more in this one. I think it was on like a $10 trade-off for a $250 car bill for repairs or something like that. So MoDOT, Patrick McKenna has worked really hard for his whole year to get more money into MoDOT, and the legislature keeps telling them no. But Donna, you're right, and that's what you tell people, you know, that's what you, and because Piper's doing that. You're not paying taxes, or you want your school tax dollars to go to a voucher. Well, I don't like paying for the military. Do I get part of my taxes back? So there's something about education, and they've taught parents, my money should follow my kid. I want my education dollars back to go with my kid. Okay, well, then, you know, you haven't paid my road paved for a decade. I want all of the money that I put into MoDOT back because you haven't paved my road. So she's trying to make these comparisons. You just can't pull your tax dollars back from the pot. And yeah, a lot of people, and you've seen it various times. Elizabeth Warren had a wonderful comment. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you grew a business, you were successful, you're making a lot of money, good for you. But don't forget who put the roads in for people to get to your company. Don't forget the fire protection and the police protection you have. Don't forget the education that your workers have who are working at your factory that are making you money. You didn't do this by yourself, but we do have that American spirit of, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps all by myself, and you shouldn't take any of what I earn, right? Isn't that American tradition? So. The good news is most of the country, or no, more of the country is saying that than not. More people are living in blue states than not. That's the challenge with the Electoral College. We can be hopeful that Kevin McCarthy and Trump will continue on their path and turn more people off from them. I read something today, you might know better because it's hard to keep up with current events. The Republicans are saying we need tax cuts and we think Biden should propose them for us to see if we agree with it or not. I think Biden has said you should come up with what you want to see from. But Republicans are masterful of Biden should do that. And then when Biden says, I'm not going to, then the Republicans say, well, how come Biden? And the rest of us, yeah, Biden, how come you're not playing in this game? You have to really be careful. And I think there are people that listen to what's, and how many times have we talked about Joe Biden's top secret documents? Top story on the news for 2 weeks. We're horrified that it took 2 months to tell us. I don't think I knew about Trump's documents for years. But we're obsessed that Biden kept it a secret for 2 months. So.
One of the massive efforts to look into Hunter Biden.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So I thank you all for coming tonight and for being here. It is for us to keep going and keep talking to your friends and your neighbors and people in line. And, you know, if you hear somebody say, I got a pothole, say, you know, I wish we paid a little bit more in tax to fix those potholes. And I don't have to buy a new tire twice a year because I went through a pothole.
I did a pothole and wiped out a tire last year. And when I was talking to MoDOT, I talked to the police department and said, no, go to MoDOT. MoDOT came through, and the very first thing they said, file a report and we'll pay you for the tire. And I said, what? And they said, yeah. And it was a suggestion from MoDOT to put a claim in online. It worked perfectly.
Wow.
Yeah,
And they didn't ask what the age of the tire was or anything else. It was a
Wow.
relatively new tire,
wow.
but they sent me a check right away.
I don't think I'm gonna tell anybody about that in budget next
But
week.
that one caught me so off guard because it was so helpful.
I didn't know they did that.
And I didn't either.
If you ever see or know of a pothole, and then here's the problem, you've got, MoDOT has more miles under their purview than most other states in the nation. So Missouri, whenever, decades ago, we bought county roads, we bought municipality roads. MoDOT has more roads than almost any other state in the nation. We do more with our dollars than almost any other state in the nation because Patrick McKenna has been masterful in using his dollars and maximizing them. If it's a state-owned road and there's a pothole, let me know, I'll let them know, and my experience with them is they're out within 24 to 48 hours to fill it. So if you do see that, I do have people I can call and let them know. And Donna, we're always gonna have potholes, we're always going to have winter and water and ice, but the idea is then to get them fixed as quickly as possible. And the newer the road, I think the less of those we have and the longer it takes them to develop. And Donna, I hear you, tell all your friends the same thing. If we have money to put on the roads, we have fewer of those issues and less cost. Anybody think of anything else? Do you all know how to get hold of me? Shouldn't be hard. You Google me, you look at the Missouri House numbers, my information is there on how to contact us. I'm sending my newsletter out again. I think we sent the first one out 10 days ago. I'm gonna try to get the next one out, I think on Tuesdays this year, to hopefully tell you what's happening and coming.
How do we sign up for your newsletter, Deb?
Mostly go to my house website, and there's a button for capital distribution of the newsletter, so house.mo.gov, Google Missouri House of Rep, we come up, look for members, go to my page, and there's a button you can click. You can tell John, you can tell anybody here, hey, I want to be on Deb's newsletter. Okay. A fantasy I have that includes all of you is to have a meeting a month where we truly write letters to editors. I know we all know it's a good idea. I know we all wish we did it better. It occurs to me if 4 to 8 of us sat down in a room for 2 hours a month and did it, especially West newspaper. Somebody wrote about guns.
I responded to one and never got published.
Okay, and let me know, because I know somebody there, and all right. But I think we just keep sending them to West newspaper. I need to do a little bit more of all the advertising I did in that paper. They didn't even put results of who won elections. So you take my money for advertisement, they did put in survey answers, but then you don't even have an article that says who wins? I just was intrigued by it.
I guess they were embarrassed
You
to
don't
admit
know.
that you won.
Yeah, but you had the 2 Republicans who beat Melissa and Colin. You had Sparks, I mean, you had Hardin, you had a lot of Republicans that still won. You had Eric Schmidt. You had way more Republicans win than you had Democrats. You can't even put an article that says who won. I think that was intriguing. I know Vicky at West Newspaper, an amazing soul, very, very Democrat, if you don't know Vicky. So she is my contact there. She does her advertising and marketing for the paper. She sells ads. When people say, pretty Republican, she says, please just turn 3 pages. You'll really like the community news. She knows, and I think it's gotten a little softer over the years that I've read. I think there are more letters to the editor that support us. They need to get rid of Star Parker. Oh my goodness. I love how she starts on this topic and ends up on this one, and you're like, okay, there's no line from there to here. Just amazing how she brings out the kitchen sink. So, Well, again, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate being here. Reach out to me if you need something, want something, if you missed something. I'm happy to keep everybody filled in as best as I can. John will have some clips for you. Your Democrats work hard for you every day. One of the neatest things I like, it doesn't really matter where we are, we're talking about policy. We go to dinner and we talk about policy. You're in the elevator with somebody and you're talking about policy. You're walking down to an event and you're talking about policy. It's really kind of neat that you have that many people who are passionate about what we do. And we're constantly thinking and talking and wondering and what if, and it's a nice environment to work in a Democratic office. So I appreciate the opportunity. All right, cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, regarding these drag goats, I just want to point out there, but are you heading out then?
I think if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate
what
your
you
time.
have to say about that.
Oh, well, I just wanted to point out, you know, I looked it up. 1923 was when the U.S. Attorney General said it was all right for women to wear pants in public. So technically, you go back 100 years, every woman in this room is in drag right now. I don't know why the Republicans are so obsessed over clothing choices at this time, but I really think we do need to contact the speaker and ask, you know, why are you wasting time on this? We do not want to be pulled back to the beginning of the 20th century. So,
Thank you all.
thank you so much, Doug. Another thing I wanted to mention too is that, again, the initiative petition process is what Deb was talking about, but, you know, that's an initiative. The initiative petition process is what allows us as citizens to get bills, to get initiatives on the ballot. So like if you as a Missouri citizen have the power right now, if you think of something that you want to put up to the people for a vote, you can by yourself, you know, make a petition. Probably best to consult a lawyer about the language if you're not a lawyer already, but you can get a petition to, you know, ask your neighbors to sign it to get an initiative put on the ballot and put to the vote of the people. And this is something that makes our state, you know, more democratic, small d democratic. It gives more people access to, you know, the machinery of government. And the Republicans really, really want to dismantle it because, as everyone in this room knows, Missourians, when we vote on issues, when we vote on policy, as a state, we're much more progressive than the Republicans in the House like. So they've repeatedly tried to overturn things that the people of Missouri decided they wanted to pass using this initiative petition system. And so now, instead of coming around after we've all agreed that we want something and trying to take it away by passing a new constitutional amendment or passing legislation that, you know, interferes with the ballot initiative that we passed, like when they, like for instance, one of these is, you know, we actually banned puppy mills as a people in our state. And then the state legislature went back and rewrote laws and arranged it to continue to allow puppy mills in the state, because there are a couple of Republicans who have family members that are heavily invested in puppy mills. That happened quite a while ago. That's just one example of the many times that we as a people have managed to pass something without the state legislature, and then the state legislature has come back in and found ways to get around it or undo what we've done. Another example is the Clean Missouri Act, where, you know, the Clean Missouri Ballot Initiative, where, you know, we got together and decided, as a state, that we wanted to put limits on donations to politicians and to help stop the ridiculous gerrymandering process that we have happened in our state every 10 years. And again, the state legislature came back with an amendment to try to overturn all of that, and they wrote it in deceptive language, and people thought it was like more voter reform when it was actually, more lobbyist and more reform for lobbyist donations to politicians and that sort of thing, when in fact it was undoing the Clean Missouri initiative that we passed. And so, but now, instead of going around and trying to undo what the people from Missouri want in those nefarious ways, now they just want to take that power away from us altogether and make it impossible for us to pass anything in the state without going through the state legislature first. So, so that's an important thing to pay attention to if you believe in democracy as a concept, not just as a Democrat. And as Mary was pointing out, you know, a lot of Republicans are opposed to this too once they understand what's going on. So that's a really important thing that she was talking about, and I just want to make sure everybody was aware. Okay, so next on our agenda, we have.
Al Gerber with CD2.
Yes. Ah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm the chairman of the Congressional District 2 Democratic Committee. There's others of us here acting. John's our treasurer for that committee. And our main goal going forward this year and next, we have two goals. One is to try to flip 2nd Congressional District to Democrat. And the other goal is to build up infrastructure in the 2nd District to help keep it that way. And somebody asked me, well, how do you flip the 2nd District? And the answer I give is you do it one House representative district at a time. So we're not just going to flip the whole district at once. We've got to work at the House district level. And we have some that are pretty close in the 2nd District. Lavender only lost by 1%, some others that are pretty close. So we also want to spend time thinking about working at that level. So those are our two main goals. I think everybody in this room is in the 2nd District. If anybody wants to help us out, please come and talk to me. We have a very active communications committee that has made some very good progress in learning how to advertise online. It's not easy, actually. Most politicians just give up. They end up paying consultants and stuff, absorbing amounts. But we have figured out how to do that, and we've done it for the 2nd District, and we're also helping other groups. It's our plan to help other groups to learn how to do that also. So, as I said, if you want to come and help us out, please do, and we'll find something for you to do. So that's our main one. Anything else, John, that I forgot?
But just, you can also go to our website, mo2dems.org, the number 2.
Are you on Facebook?
Yep. Let me see, what is our Facebook?
Is the Facebook page linked on the website?
Yes, and it is also mo2dems.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you so much, Committeeman Al Gerber. All right, so next up we have a report from the Democratic Central Committee.
That was
Which
Ozma.
people? Okay, Ozma, are you able to give your report?
Yeah. Chime in whenever. Hi, I'm Asma Raza. I am part of the St. Louis County Central Committee. Al is my counterpart. John here today. So we meet every month for county Democrat business. And anything we talked about, so we want to get an executive director. We're all working volunteers. So an executive director can help us focus and just get the work done for Democrats, running Democrats, registering Democrats, and getting Democrats elected. And messaging.
It's a paid position.
Yeah, so this is a paid position we've been fundraising for, and we're excited to get.
Yeah, just, while she's turning that off, just mention that the one that we have hired is John Bosch, if any of you know. So that's the new one that's just coming in.
We also did discuss fundraiser day on July 15th, Saturday. We have a gala every year, and so we have a date. So save the date. fundraise to help Democrats in the town. We do have several committees within our committee. We want to work on voter registration. There are a lot of voters out there, and a lot of new voters, immigrant voters, Asian voters is a big group that we can tap. They're not committed necessarily to one party or another. And so we are working on some initiatives there. And we're working with the county. We welcome people to come help us in Democrats out. We do have some events coming around town. Trivia nights are back. Anyone's interested, we have a list of events, and we should get on the website.
Yep.
Yeah, county website. Go back to in-person stuff, and it's always nice to just be with like-minded people that we don't know, but just to discuss. Thank you. Any questions, anyone, or did I forget anything?
I think you hit all of it.
Thank you, Committeewoman Asma Rasa. Okay, so I do have one announcement tonight related to the Central Committee, which is that our committeewoman for Lafayette Township, which is the township I live in, Hannah Webb, is resigning because she's taken on a pretty intensive volunteer position with another organization. So we're looking for a woman who lives in Lafayette Township, who's interested in getting involved in the Democratic Party, who would be able to commit to going to a couple of meetings a month and participating in the Democratic Central Committee. So if you're interested, please do stay, talk to me after the meeting. If you don't know what township you live in, we can help you figure it out. We do have maps, so, but if you know anyone who might be interested, please also reach out to us. You can reach out to our Facebook page, which is the Queeny-Lafayette Township page on Facebook. It's just Dem Club of Queeny and Lafayette. If you search for it, it's really easy to find. So you can reach out to us there. Or you can ask me for my email address after the meeting and I'll give it to you, and I'd be happy to, my husband, John Judy, is the committeeman for Lafayette, and he is technically in charge of nominating a replacement. So, so if you email me, I'll pass it on to him, and then we can fill this position. We would really like to get this position filled. As the president of the Queeny-Lafayette Township Democratic Club, I would like to continue doing this job. So we're hoping that we can find somebody, maybe somebody, you know, who's not an officer in our club, to bring in to this position, so that we have some new ideas and a fresh perspective. So if you know anyone, if you're interested yourself, please do approach me.
And as we've pointed out several times, there are a lot of committee members here. We've got Asma, we've got Al, Jessica, and Mike are on Zoom. We're all here to help you learn what you would be doing as a committee woman, so.
Yes. And we would be, yeah, they're really helpful, but they'd be happy to help you learn the ropes, so. Please do come forward if you're interested or if you know someone. Okay, do we have any other business for this evening to add to the agenda? All right, if not, thank you so much everyone for coming. If you want to talk to one of us personally, please stay after and go ahead and chat. We're probably going to break out into our Township Club sessions right now in case the townships have separate business to conduct. So feel free to stay for that, or you can head out for the night. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.